Hello, AO. I hope you guys are all doing great. Happy Thanksgiving for those of you that celebrate that. Excited. I'm off work until, I'm off my W-2 job until Thanksgiving's over, so I'm excited. I'll be doing plenty of work for Guardian during that time. But before we get started and I start answering questions, I would really encourage you, regardless of whether or not you celebrate Thanksgiving, to look back and use this time to reflect on where you were 4, 5, 10 years ago. It's amazing how far so many of you, myself included, have grown, both in AO and before you ever joined. I think back in 2017, and I've told you guys, some of you at least, this story before, but my revenue for Guardian Security was $7,000. And today, well, not today, but last month in October, we crossed 3 million and we'll do almost 4 this year. And I look at it like all entrepreneurs, we're always looking ahead, and we're trying to always think about how do we get the next sale? How do we grow the next X percent? And we very rarely stop and reflect and look back. And I think it's so exciting sometimes to do that and see how far you've come, and it motivates you to do even more. So I'd encourage you to do that. It can be a real eye-opener sometimes when you think back on how far you've grown. That being said, we'll roll into the questions. I'm excited to get to answer some of these. We've got some good ones today, so I will get started. The first one comes from Quade, and I will read his question. The question is, how do you remain patient with your goals? Background and business description: I'm the most effective and in-depth construction company on the planet. I am curious about the methods people use to remain patient and focused on goals. I want to accomplish a lot with my company. However, my mind wants to get it all done tomorrow. I feel like my sense of urgency is what drives me to always improve. On the flip side, I may be doing myself a disservice by being so scattered. Thank you. That's part of being human, Quade. We all set these goals. AO is a very goal-oriented group, right? Overall, we set these goals, and at the beginning they're super exciting because we have these massive goals we want to achieve, and it's exciting, and we're ready to get started. And then we get started, and then time passes, and that excitement starts to fade. It's part of being human. New equals exciting, right? Well, what happens when that exciting goes away? And I think I talked this one at an event you were at, Quade, but staying focused on your goals requires discipline. You have to be disciplined, and I'm going to give you some stuff, but just kind of a reminder, discipline is that consistent application of self-control through rules, habits, systems in your environment in order to reach your goals or your purpose. I'm going to give you a very simple thing, and I'm going to preface it with this, in that a lot of the things I do and a lot of things I say are all very simple. I mean, that's part of being efficient, but everybody seems to want complicated answers. They want to know that if they have this super complicated way, they feel like that's the most effective, and that's not it. Simple is usually best. So I'm going to give you something simple to try, Quade. I would encourage you to do it. If you do actually try it, or anybody tries it, I would love to hear your results. But it comes with just building a very simple habit, and it's kind of a three parts to this, but I'm going to go over each one and just tell you it takes you 10 minutes a day at most that you can do to really stay focused on your goals and to achieve those goals. One, if you don't stay focused on them, you're not going to achieve them. They're going to fade away. Everybody starts January 1 trying to get in shape at the gym or whatever. Well, where are they at December 31? They've probably long forgot what their goal even was. Why? They didn't stay focused. So here's a very simple habit to build and try out. And again, love to hear it if you do. So one, in the morning, take 5 minutes, write down your top however many goals you have. It doesn't have to be every single one, obviously, or most of us will be writing pages and pages, but write down your top 3 goals. What are your biggest goals that you are trying to achieve in that next year, 2, 3, 5 years? Write them down every single day in the morning. Now, at night, the other 2 parts of this are write down in the same journal, and actually, there's my journal, so I do what I say, but write down one thing you did that day to achieve that goal. Why that's valuable is through the day, you're going to be thinking, I've got to write something down at the end of the day, And so you'll actually be more focused on doing those things that help you achieve those goals. The second thing I'm going to encourage you to do, the second part of that, is to actually put one thing you're going to do the next day in your calendar and actually so schedule that out. So for this hour, I'm going to work on X goal. Put it in your calendar, set a reminder, and go with it. That is going, if you do that at 30 days, I promise you, you're going to work closer to your goal. I can't say what your goals are. If it's a 10-year goal, obviously you're not going to achieve that in 30 days, but that's going to keep you focused on your goals. And if you do that and you stay focused on them, then that's how you're going to achieve them. So again, at the beginning of the day, write down your goals. Take 2, 3, 4 minutes to do that. At the end of your day, take 5 minutes, write down one thing you achieved that worked or pushed you closer to your goal, and put in your calendar one thing you're going to do the next day. Schedule it with a reminder to work towards your goals. Do that. It's simple, but it's effective. And it's going to help keep that focus on your goal you talked about, or stay focused on your goals like you asked about. Again, love to hear it if anybody tries it. It's simple, and people tend to, for whatever reason, they want complicated, and they think complicated somehow works better, and it doesn't. All right, next question. This one is from Joe. The question Joe asked is, how do I figure out how much I can pay someone for a sales position that is salary plus commission? Business description and background question. I own a home inspection company. I'm adding an outside business development position, and I'm unsure how much I can afford to pay them with a salary plus a bonus. Joe, I think you might have already worked through this some with Dan. And so anything that he said, obviously, he obviously has a wealth of experience and knowledge there. I would absolutely implement that. But here's what I would say. There are some things that you have to look at. So you have 3 options when you're talking about paying anybody that has, for sales. You can pay them straight 100% commission. Usually that's not going to be very effective. You can pay them, and Tom talks this too, by the way, but straight 100% commission. You can pay them a combination of salary and commission like you're talking about doing, or a straight salary. Salary, again, probably not the best to keep somebody motivated. So I think you're taking the best approach there. And so you have to ask yourself, what can you afford to pay, which is what you've done, the question you've asked. What salary can you afford, and what commission kind of makes sense there? And I guess some advice I would give just comes from our experience running Guardian, is that, one, you have to understand what your expenses are, like really, really understand all of your expenses. If anybody watching this is selling something and they don't understand what their expenses are, I have no idea how you price your product. When it comes to Guardian, how we would figure this out is, for instance, we get a new contract. They want security guards 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I refer to that as a 168, so because there's 168 hours a week, they want that kind of coverage. So we look at, okay, what do the uniforms cost us? I can tell you that our uniforms cost us $284 per set. How many employees is it going to take? What's the insurance going to cost? What's health insurance look like? What's our overtime going to be? And we calculate all that stuff out, so we know exactly what it costs to do this. And then we're looking for a pretty standard profit margin on top of that. In the service industry, for us, it's 10%. Those can vary widely by the type of industry you're in. But it's very simplistic, but you have to understand what your expenses are before you can price anything at all. If you don't understand what your expenses are, again, I have no idea how you do that. Part of those expenses too that you have to factor in, or you have your fixed expenses. So for instance, like office space. Office space isn't going to change if you sell more. It might change at some point if you grow, but that's not really what we're talking about. Then you have your variable expenses, those things that will change, whether they go up because you're scaling, whether they reduce in cost because you're scaling, or they go up because of your growth. And so you have to factor those in too. One thing I would say, Joe, is that figuring out what you can pay is going to probably, as far as commission, is probably going to help you set your goals for that salesperson as well. If you actually put the time in and the effort and figure out all this stuff, then you can say, if you achieve, and that's how you build a scaling structure on commission, by the way, but if you sell X home inspections, you can get, X commission. If you sell above that, you get this commission. If you sell above that, this commission. But it all starts with having a very clear understanding of what your expenses are, how you're pricing things, and how all that works together, and the fixed and variable expenses. I don't know, I have a CFO that does this for me. We have a calculator that kind of does a lot of that math for me, but we have a very clear, what we do have and what I do have is a very clear cost of what a contract will cost us, so we can then build out, this is what the price is going to be. But again, I think you've worked through this with Dan some, so hopefully you've already got a good answer to that. All right. The next question is from Allison, and the question Allison asked is this: how do you get leads to call or email you back about scheduling a call to discuss their needs and how you can help them? Business description and background of question. Digital marketing agency, I've been running some great lead funnels for our business and have been flooded with leads. Unfortunately, I haven't had much success with getting these leads to email or call me back to schedule a complimentary 30-minute consultation to better assess their needs and how we can help. In my email, I leave a calendar link to book a call, and in my calls, I clearly explain that we can schedule a time that better fits their need. I even text them and leave a voicemail if I'm unable to catch them at a good time. I've only had a few good leads book a call with me, but I feel like I'm missing out on all the other leads that have come in recently since I can't get them to book a call with me. They are qualified leads as we qualify them through specific questions through our lead funnels. I research their companies before calling them to make sure they are legit. Thank you for your help and time in advance. So several things I would say here, Allison, I've got kind of three things here. One is consistency over time. What I mean by that is I can't tell the time difference between the time you email, you call, you text. What I would say is this, that you need to, I would probably spread those out some. So if you do that all at once in the first couple of days, you're just bombarding them. And if they didn't respond then they're probably not going to. I read a study one time, and I assume it's still somewhat accurate, in that someone has to see a brand or come across a brand 7 times before they actually buy that brand. If you just say, here's, bam, rapid fire, text, call, emails, all at once, I think that that's probably very ineffective. What I would say is this: I would spread it out. You know, this week I'm calling, the next week I email, I text, and I'm back to calling, and spread that out over time so they see your name, they see your brand, and they get more comfortable with it. And you know what? They might not, no matter what they answered on those questions, they might not really need it right then. It might be 3 months down the road. One of our contracts we got took me I spread it out like I said, but it took me 1 year and 4 months to get. And it was like $400,000 in revenue. So obviously it was worth doing that over time, but it didn't just happen. They were interested. I knew they wanted it. They talked about how horrible their other company was, but it took 1 year and 4 months. So understand this, that it's consistency over time that will probably land you more calls. Other thing I'm going to say is you need to be tracking those. This is something Tom talks all the time, but it's how many leads do you get, then calls do you make? How many actual contacts do you get? Out of those actual contacts, how many proposals do you get to put in? And then from those proposals, how many do you actually land? And from there, once you figure that out, those numbers across the board, it's simply just a volume game. You're simply just, the more you can say, okay, well, I just got to make 100 more calls to get 1 more contract. Hopefully that makes sense. The one final thing I would say is I wouldn't be discouraged by this. I think, listen, marketing right now, I get these calls, texts, emails, and I'm not even looking for them all the time. I get them in my personal email. I get them in Guardian's email. I get text. I don't even read them. You're going to have to hit a lot of people, again, volume, to do this, because, I mean, personally, I just ignore them at this point. There's just so many of them. You're in a very, very saturated market right now. So keep your head up. But again, volume, consistency over time, and then track those numbers to actually figure out how many calls do I need to make to get contacts, how many contacts do I need to get a proposal, and how many proposals do I need to make to get a contract. And that will allow you to know when you should hire somebody else to start taking over this for you. All right, next question. This one is from Carrington. Carrington asked, what is the best way to learn how to answer objections in a confident manner? business description and background of question. I run a commercial photography business specializing in product photography. When talking with prospective clients, what is a good way to increase confidence and learn answers to questions or objections that won't lead to more questions? So Carrington, again, a simple answer, but confidence comes from experience and knowledge. Experience and knowledge comes from doing. At the end of the day, the best advice I would give you is to go to more meetings, face more objections. And what you need to do from there is you need to start building a list of those objections that you receive and come up with them, because it's going to end up being a pretty standard set of objections that you face. Whatever that is in your industry, 5 to 10, pretty standard. These are the objections. And then you start building that out. So these are the list of objections. And then you build out what are the best possible response. And you don't try to wing it in the moment at all. And then you rehearse those responses. Again, if you want to sound confident, the first time you say it shouldn't be to the client. It should be rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. And that's going to build some. And then you're going to refine that process. So you're always going to get more questions. But the more you know your product, the more you know your business, the more confident you're going to be in responding to those. When I first went to my very first sales meeting ever, I was super nervous. 200 of those later, not so much anymore. I feel like I can answer any product question, any service-based question, anything really for my company at this point. But again, that comes from doing. So do over and over and over again. And like I said earlier, don't beat yourself up. You're going to make mistakes. The key is to, again, just identify those common objections, come up with the best possible answer, rehearse those. And if your if your response brings up more questions, that's fine. Just note those, and the same thing, build out a response to those, or alter your previous response so that question is already answered. That's really what you want to do, is kind of identify those ahead of time and answer them before they ever have a chance to ask. All right. The next question is also from Carrington, and what she asked is, what are ways or key points when organizing, prepping for upcoming year? Business description and background question, it's the same as before, but she runs a commercial photography business that focuses primarily on product photography. And most of my journey has been just going with no clear plan of action, winging it, so to speak. Throughout my AO journey this far, I'm getting more organized with vision, plan, goals, etc. What are key areas to focus on when prepping for the new year to set yourself up going in strong? Carrington, first thing I would say is you don't need to wait for the new year to do any of this. Do it right now. Start. The best time to start was 10 years ago, and the second best is right now. In fact, I mentioned it earlier on this, but people always set New Year's resolutions, and then where are they at December 31st? I mean, the failure rate on that is spectacularly high. But you're doing the right thing. So you're getting a vision, you're getting a plan, you're getting a goal. And that's all extremely important if you want to get organized and prep for the upcoming year, having that vision and knowing what your goals are. I would think about this a little different though. Everybody does 1 year, and I don't know why. In Guardian, we actually don't. We do 12 weeks. We plan for 12 weeks, and it helps negate that issue I just talked about. A year is it's a fair amount of time. It's a very easy time to procrastinate on. So if you start setting a 1 year goal out and you start saying, okay, and then you'll push it off. I can do that in 6 months. And the reality is that, so what we do at Guardian, like I said, is we break it down into 12 weeks. We meet every 13th week, and we say, okay, where do we want to be at in 12 weeks? Now we have a vision, we have a 3-year vision, we have a BHAG, we have all this stuff. So this 12-week plan is aligned with that. It's oriented towards that. How do we get closer to this vision? And we break it down week by week. This is what I'm going to do this week. This is what I'm going to do this week, and so on. Now, every week we also have an accountability meeting. And that accountability meeting says, okay, this week I was supposed to do X. This is what actually happened. And if they didn't meet it, then we dig into why they didn't meet it. And then the second part of it, this is what I'm doing next week, and this is any issues I might face. And if the team needs to help at that point, then we can actually dive in and all help each other. But the goal is to kind of use 12 weeks versus a year to force us to act now. And 12 weeks, you can accomplish quite a bit in 12 weeks. It just doesn't give you a lot of time to procrastinate. Now, that 12-week plan, by the way, should be very much working on the business and not in the business. And I'm sure you're familiar with that term. I have a team member that just loves to create a 12-week plan, or try to anyways, based around working in the business, doing his job, and that's not what this is. So just keep that in mind, but you're looking at it from a year and you're looking from starting in January, I would encourage you to start now and condense that time period down to a shorter where you don't have the time to procrastinate, because again, it's about staying focused. It's about executing every day. You're not going to win them all, but it's about staying on that track. And if you can find somebody that is either in AO or out or somewhere else that will help you and hold you accountable, and you do the same for them. People have a hard time with accountability, so get somebody that's not going to sugarcoat it for you, but just doing that, condensing the time and being held accountable, I think it really will help you keep you organized and prepped for the upcoming year. Just condense that time. All right, next question is from Kimberly, and Kimberly asked, how can I reach more prospects in a quicker time frame? Business description and background question is Serene Workforce offers virtual care, information webinars, and on-site massage therapy for large companies in Canada. We solve problems related to employee stress, pain management for increased productivity, and corporate bottom lines. I am the company at this point and want your opinion on how I can ramp up sales faster. What would you do in order to reach more prospects faster? Yeah, so I'm going to be willing to bet, and I don't listen to anybody else's responses to this, but I'm going to be willing to bet that someone else along the way has said this. Kimberly, you cannot possibly do it all. So it sounds like if you are the company, if you're the sole employee, you literally have to do everything for your business, and then you also have to try to sell your product essentially at the same time. You only have 24 hours in a day. No matter how efficient you get at that process, you're never going to have more than 24 hours. If you're a company of one, you need to start finding out or figuring out how you can bring in somebody else. And to do, I don't know which part of it you're going to be better at, whether that's the actual going into the company and doing the pain management or the employee stress reduction, or if it's making the sales. But you need to find a way to get another person to help you with that. That's how you're going to increase that. That's how you're going to reach more prospects in a quicker time frame. Because you're going to run out of time very, very quickly in a day if you're a company of one. Sean said it in a post recently about it being easier the larger your business gets, something to that effect. And man, it's absolutely true. When it was just me and one business partner and 5 employees or a single employee actually at one point, it was extremely difficult. Every time we had an issue, you're constantly working in the business and not on it. As we have continued to fight through that, and you'll have to at the start, and grown, and over 80 employees now, there's a lot less of that I actually have to do, and it's a lot easier than it was back then. It's a lot less stressful. You've just got to find a way to add a team member to this to get you, if you want to go faster. More people is going to equal faster growth. Figuring out how to pay for that is a challenge in and of itself. I understand that, but it is something that you're going to have to figure out. All right, next question is from Jennifer, and question that she asked is, how do I create sales scripts as well as copy for my web funnels? Business description and background question, and there's a link to a Google Doc here, but for my day job, I sell COVID tests to enterprises and hospitals, and because of the new mandate, sales went through the roof, which I'm extremely grateful for, but it has been a bit overwhelming since it's not my company, so I can't outsource, and all my clients want to talk to me directly. The company I work for doesn't have scripts or sales funnel for sales reps, so I had to create my own from scratch. I would like, if possible, that you take a look at take a look at what I think is a good sales funnel and good scripts and optimize them to the best they can be so I can close the most sales. Thank you very much. Jennifer, the number one piece of advice I'm going to give you on this is I don't know what kind of influence or things you have at your company where you can do this, but a while back, Tom was, for like $500, Tom was reviewing sales scripts or even helping people write them. Tom is an expert on these. He wrote the sales scripts for us. They are effective. They're simple. And they're very, but I did read through you had 26 pages of of sales scripts there. So it was mostly, it was very good. I thought if I had to give you one piece of advice, I'd probably go back and just make the emails a little bit more or less textish. It came across a lot of times as they were very similar to your text, and I get it very kind of short and abrupt. But I would maybe rewrite those some. But I love your organization. I love how you wrote that out. They're great. But again, I would speak to whoever the decision maker is on this and say, hey, can we spend $500? Can we spend $1,000? And have somebody actually professionally review these. The advice Tom gives is generally very common sense, very, very simple to implement, and it always makes sense, and it's very effective. It's based on decades and decades of experience in actually sales. So there is no better person in this organization than to talk sales with you than Tom, and especially with your level of organization and the fact that you've already got a lot of these written out. He's going to tweak them. He's going to tell you like, hey, I would use these words and this is why. It will be money very well spent. Okay, final question is from Kristen, and Kristen asked this: what sources are best to use to find people to hire? Business description and background of question. I need to hire a couple of part-time staff. I used to use Indeed years ago, but it seems to be the new Craigslist, very scammy. Looking for in-person staff at our warehouse to do entry-level work. Thank you. Okay, so several things here, Kristen. The first is, I would say, is this. Good luck right now. You're going to have a hard time competing against Amazon and everybody else doing seasonal kind of hiring work, but it's doable. You absolutely can. The number one way I would recommend, and I'll go into one or two others, but is introduce a referral program to other employees. For us, some of our best employees have been referred from other employees. And generally we give like $100. If they stay 90 days, they get $100. But not only that, it's not just having your people put the work into finding good people for you, but people like to work with people that they're friends with. And assuming that they can actually effectively do that, it can be great. It's a great way to find some. So consider introducing a referral program to your company and using that to find employees. How many people, might have a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, whatever, that's looking for a little extra income over the holidays. That's a great way to find them. And being introduced through somebody they already know that's how you're going to one-up Amazon. That's how you're going to one-up Walmart, all these people doing seasonal hiring. So the second way is, what's interesting is we use Indeed quite a bit. I'm curious why you think it's scammy or kind of like Craigslist. That has not been our experience. And I don't know why you think that. It's not detailed in here. I guess I would ask you is, are you boosting the post? And typically what we do is we boost, paid advertisement, essentially, a post. We spend usually about $100 per advertisement, so not a lot. And we usually get 50 to 100 applications from that for what we're essentially talking $12 to $17 an hour jobs. So I'm not sure if you're just putting the post out there and hoping that something happens with it. I can tell you this, that you generally do have to spend some sort of money to get any real response, but it's generally not a lot. And we do get a lot of responses. So I don't know why your experience has been so different from mine in regards to that. You can also try Facebook. Facebook does a thing where if your company has a Facebook page where you can advertise, it'll be on your page, but they can also, again, advertise. You have to pay at least to get it boosted, so to speak, so more people notice it. But it's generally not expensive. We've had the flip side of that. We've had a lot of negative experience advertising on Facebook, but other people I've talked to have had really positive experiences, and it's been a success for them. There's a billion platforms out there through our experience, and we have advertised on a lot of them. Monster.com, there's a billion of them, like I said. We've had the most success with Indeed. So feel free to message me if you want, and just tell me why you think Indeed is scammy. We just haven't had that experience, and then we've used them. I know a lot of other companies that use them as well. So anyways, good luck with that. And that is all the questions. So I appreciate everybody that's watching this. And again, I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.